Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Quincy on the north side in front of St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church, which has a very interesting up and down history. Built in 1912, this church received great care and attendance here on Quincy's north side. Then, in the years of the 2000s, it was decommissioned as a parish and emptied out. Then a great keen interest in the Latin Mass emerged here, and now, as of January 1st, 2014, it is once again a Catholic parish in the Springfield Diocese. And Paul Geert, none of this could have happened unless somebody took a very keen interest in making this a parish again and making sure that the traditional Latin Mass was available again to people in West Central Illinois. And you're that guy.
Well, that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
It wasn't the idea, some people think that we saved it. It wasn't the idea we saved the church, we brought the Latin Mass here. And I've been attending in St. Louis about 12 years. This was my home parish. And when they started closing the churches, people were asking, what do we do, what do we do? I said, well, the Latin Mass cleans up a lot of things. And I said, let's bring the Latin Mass to Quincy if we can. And there was a lot of problems in the beginning. People, we didn't want the priests, but it got here.
Yeah, it got here. And it's thriving. You have daily Mass here, daily Latin Mass here. And
2 Masses a day, 7 and 12:10. And then we have, on the weekends, the 8 o'clock low Mass, well attended, over 100 people. And then we have also the 11 o'clock Mass, which is sung high Mass. Sometimes solemn high Mass with 3 priests, but mostly 1 priest when we have a regular high Mass. Music, a Latin choir, children galore. We have a lot of children. Our big interest of people here are between 18 and 40, and they have a lot of children, and they drive anywhere here in Quincy up to 1.5 hours, 2 hours away to come here every week for Mass.
Not only is this a thriving community now, a parish community again, but this building, which was built in 1912, I think I already said, but it has been taken beautiful care of. And you're still doing that now. You're in the process of a project to restore the stained glass on this window. We're going to get into that in great detail in this program. But these projects are ongoing, and this building is thriving, isn't it?
Well, it's a wonderful building. It was the first breakaway in Quincy of a traditional Gothic church. If you went to St. Francis, St. Mary's, St. John's is Gothic, you see a big brick Gothic church that had the big steeple. And Father Brennan wanted something different. He was from St. Peter's, an assistant there at one time, and then he went to Decatur. And then the bishop says, I want to make you the pastor of St. Rose. And he came here at the age of 26, 28 years old, and he did this magnificent task. He took out the design with Charles Behrensmeyer, who was a famous Quincy architect.
Behrensmeyer. Okay, a lot of people in Quincy would know that name.
Oh, yes. Very famous, made homes, a lot of businesses. He was a great architect.
What was he attempting to do here? What styles was he mixing here?
Well, according to, now it says a Venetian on the plaque, the Quincy, from the Quincy's...
Preserves?
No, Quincy, gosh, I can't think of the darn thing now. Quincy Commission, the Quincy Historical Commission.
Historical Commission.
Commissioned it.
Okay.
And before I left, I wrote up some papers for it, and someone finished my papers and took it to the city council. But anyway, this is a style of 3 different. Now, Father will say Byzantine, then it also has Gothic and Romanesque. In the 1927 edition of the diocese, Father Brennan had written, it was Spanish, Gothic, and Romanesque. So, you know, I think because of the inside, you see that big inflated dome. It looks like a Byzantine almost, but it's unique. The brick it had been tuck pointed about 1991. The windows were put in by Fry Glass, and this was all done for $50,000.
Yeah. Wow.
Now
you
today,
mean the entire church was built for $50,000
$50,000
in 1912?
1912.
That's incredible.
Today, about $5 million.
Yeah. Okay.
The windows are the jewels of this place, but the interior, the design is interesting from the outside to the inside. And when Father Fox built the rectory in '39, it's same brick, same kind of arches, and it kind of flow onto this because he lived down at the old rectory down the street where you see that big brick building.
Well, what we're going to do is, this is an amazing story, because when this church, I'm not sure if decommission was the right, but when it was no longer a parish, they closed it, and everything, almost virtually everything, was removed. As we're going to see when we go inside, we're going to talk in detail about this. So when you walk in there now, you're almost astounded when you think that this was an empty building at one time, and not very long ago.
Yes,
yeah.
It was magnificent. You know, the only thing that was left to us were the pews and the old organ, which worked about 20%. But we got together and we got the design to going, and looking through other recommendation companies throughout the United States. I contacted companies where they had altars taken out of churches like this. Wow. And here we are. When people come in here, they think the altars were always there, because everything fits perfectly.
Well, you know, it's cold and snowy, so let's go inside.
Okay.
Well, Paul Geer, we couldn't be welcomed at St. Rose of Lima Church by a more appropriate person. We're looking at an angel now, which you brought into this church, and this is such an interesting story, because this church had no future.
Correct.
It had been emptied out.
Correct.
And you, having grown up here as a boy, had a passion for this church and for saving it, and for bringing the Latin Mass to St. Rose. You went on a mission, didn't you, to fill this church with church-like artifacts one more time?
Well, it was a great mission, and a lot of people involved. And people say, we saved a church. It wasn't the idea we saved a church. Well, I want to bring the Latin Mass to Quincy. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were against it, but we had a good crowd here. People that came in every day, 20, 30 people, every day to clean the church, clean the rectory, clean the hall, to get it prepared, because the next step was to find out what we're going to put in here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so from that point, then I remember Father Gabbett and I, when we talked to the bishop, he said, could you put marble altars? And I said, oh gosh, Father, okay.
Let's take a walk up and talk as we walk. So imagine, if we can, as we walk up the central aisle, that except for the pews, this church was empty. It
was completely empty. At that time, they took the carpeting off. The carpeting was all over the marble sanctuary, the floor, mm-hmm. and when we received it, it was just filth. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took a lot of people to clean it. So the next thing was to design how wide an altar, how big a pedella, that's the steps to the altar, mm-hmm. that was designed, and how tall we can go. The highest I could go was 20 feet. If I wanted to go taller, it was 30 foot. Mm-hmm. So I measured it one day, and how many feet. So then I had to go online, find out these reclamation companies, and I got a hold of someone in Boston who connected me with someone in Chicago. And Barrett College, they were going to tear down their chapel, the sisters, and I contacted them, and they had given I think they sold the altars to another company, mm-hmm. and I wanted them because they were the right color, what we wanted here, and I did the measurements. Everything was perfect. They felt, really, when people come in here, they think this altar was always here, because
looks like
when you see these arches, it was always here.
It looks like it was built around it.
Right.
It certainly does.
The pedella was built. That's the 3 steps.
Okay,
and
the steps up, the marble steps up.
Santas on it. Mm-hmm. And I said, put 2 platforms, because I thought one of these days we'll put maybe the great apostles St. Peter Paul on the side. Mm-hmm. And it was a while before we made a decision, when Father mm-hmm. says, could you find some angels? I said, I'll make some connections. So someone here in the parish donated, but a lot of people think that the money came from the parishioners, and it didn't. The money came from people around the United States that I connected with. I collected $55,000.
People that may never come into this church, set foot in it, cared enough to give you $55,000.
It was the handshake.
It was there, right. It's remarkable. Okay, and we're looking, I think, at the communion rail, this beautiful rail right in front of us, this marble rail. That looks like it was built in too.
Well, when these came down, and it had to come by a tractor trailer. Everything mm-hmm. was in pieces, and then everything was numbered, same as the altar. And the balaquino, that's 14 karat gold.
Now, point that out to us.
That's the gold part that's above the
dome, the gold dome that the cross is on.
That weighs 1 ton. So imagine all that marble on top of this floor, which is reinforced, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. and then in the basement it's reinforced underneath this.
Oh, it would have to be.
To hold it.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, the church is gorgeous. Just the bones of the church is gorgeous.
It's a magnificent
But you have
church.
No idea what it takes to fill up a church until you try, do you?
No. The people were very generous, because I figured that when they got here, they'd have to pay the bill. So if I could get them the money before. Mm-hmm. And then I was in St. Louis. I was calling the shots from St. Louis. The bishop said, make up a society or something like. I said, how about the Latin Mass Society of Quincy? He says, good. So we took care of it from there. Mm-hmm. We paid the bills. I paid the bills for everything here until the church was reopened. I think maybe till January of 2010, and then whatever I had in my account I gave to Father. So everything was in the hands of the Latin Mass Society, and good parishioners who wanted to donate things that were thrown out when they were getting rid of the church, things that were being brought back in. I was very surprised, you know, like we have a papal decoration in the back there that from 1992.
You put out the word to people
yes.
that things didn't get thrown away, and if they had them, and people
tried to
came
bring them
forth
back.
with them.
Yes, they sure did.
Yeah, this is interesting. Over my shoulder here, look at these I guess they're called lanterns. I'm not sure what they're called.
Light fixtures.
Light fixtures. Those you had to find.
Those were, I found those in Minnesota, and one of the parishioners went up and I did the dealing, as Father says, and he rewired them and hung them here, one of our parishioners. And they looked like, they were Gothic style, they looked like they came with the church.
They do. They do. Yeah. The arches are perfect.
Sure, yeah.
And speaking of arches, let's go over to this window, because you're in the process of a massive window renovation project. These have been done, and interestingly, the company in St. Louis that installed these windows back in 1912 is the company that's still in business, and they're reconditioning them.
Same family. Father, there was a parishioner, Mark Winowski, during the centennial. He says, why don't we talk to Father? He says, why don't we use this as a renovation, restoration for the centennial? I said, good idea. How would we do this? I said, I'll figure something up. So I took pictures of the windows, made a brochure. But when it scares you at $40,000, $50,000 for a window, $20,000. So I said, let's do it, because I'm a salesman, let's do it, maybe split it up in monthly payments, 36, 40, and it went. So Father says, you give the talk. So I gave 2 3-minute talks. And I said, you people wanted this church. Why you want outsiders on these windows? And I get back in the front of the church in the narthex, and we had a big, you can see the map of the church. And I got up, they were fighting over the windows. I bought the first one up here, St. Rose of Lima, for the priest. And then they were, I'll take this, I'll take that. They were fighting over the windows. We sold 90% of the windows in two of those talks.
2 weeks.
2 talks, one Sunday, 90%. The money came in.
Just let's say what's being done here. They have to be, these were, of course, had to be cleaned.
They had to be
But
cleaned.
there's also glass, protective glass on the outside.
Well, the old protective glass, a lot of it was broken, some was missing. And these are really the jewels of the church here. They had to be protected.
It's massive.
Oh, yes.
There aren't windows this big
This
anywhere.
is 20 by 13. They're the largest windows in Quincy, but also in the diocese. It's the largest collection in one church of 60 windows of this magnitude, even though those, we count those up in the tower, the ones that are decorative. And from that point, things had to be redone. So we went back we went to the original color, which was like a slate color, that was like a stone, like stone traces like you have in Europe. And so Father and I, we went through the colors that they suggested, and we picked out this color from the outside. And so with Kemner, that's one of our members here, they're in the painting company here. They did the painting. And then the Fry Glass Company, Stephen Fry, his great-grandfather was Emil Fry, the founder of Fry Glass. And so they got the bid, and they start working on the windows. So they worked on the south side first. This is the hottest side during the summer. And with that, they replaced some glass. It wasn't too bad, but some of the ventilators that are on the bottom, they used to open, they won't open anymore now. We seal them shut. And they did some repair, not a lot of repair.
They were in pretty good
very
shape,
good
weren't
condition,
they?
yes.
Let's keep walking this way, because this south side of the church, these have all been reconditioned.
Yes.
And they're good for many, many, many years
another
to come.
100 years,
Another
probably.
100 years. And they are just gorgeous. These all depict biblical scenes, which is kind of unusual for this diocese too, isn't it?
Well, no, because I think probably Father Brennan probably picked the scenes out because of the Nativity, and then you have the Assumption, and then you have the Annunciation, and you have Christ in the Temple. This was just in the last week's Gospel here, Christ at the Temple. And of course, above the confessional, you see Christ with the scholars there, and Mary Magdalene wiping his feet. And you can see the faces. What's interesting, if you see the faces, like this guy's whispering to this guy, and this guy's looking down like he's disgusted, wasting that perfume on his feet. But it's interesting because there's a lot of Gothic stuff. See that wooden stand? It's Gothic style, something from you'd see in the last 19th century, same as the candlestick, which I'm sure they didn't have back then.
Well, the artist didn't know his history that well, I guess. It's beautiful, though.
It really is.
And these are, I think it's important to note, these are not backlit. This is natural light on a gray day.
Yes.
And you can see how bright they
Yeah,
are.
when you come into the church on a Sunday or during the week, the sun comes in here so bright.
Yeah.
I mean, it picks up so well.
And now we mentioned the fact that the only thing here was the pews and the organ.
Yes.
So we have to get a look at this organ because it was built in about 1898, wasn't it?
Well, 1912 it was built for the church, but the blower is from 1898, and we had the blower reconditioned by one of the members, Bob Askins, who is phenomenal. And because everyone said, oh, you have to have a new blower, and he says, this motor will last for 100 years or more.
And he was
Or
right.
last, yeah, he was right.
Let's go check it out.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, we mentioned the organ and the blower. The blower from 1898 is still in here and still working perfectly, and that provides the air that the organ needs
For the wind chest.
for the wind chests.
One of our members, as I said, Bob Askins, kind of rewired it, restored it, and that's the heart of the organ.
And
So
we're looking at the ductwork right now,
as
which
this-
provides the air.
Right, as that goes into the chest, these big bellows are inside this chest, wooden chest, and there's 914 pipes here.
900, wow.
914 pipes. It's a 16-rank organ. Now, pre-pneumatic means it runs by air. It's not electric, though the motor is electric. As she hits the key, each one underneath that step there, that's where all the lead pipes, plastic pipes are to this organ underneath here.
Okay.
And this goes to the chamber.
Okay, the console, of course, and then under that is where those
Pipes
that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
those are air pipes that connect to each piece. So when she presses one of those keys, and as a piano you have to play like this, organ you have to hold down to get the air. So from that point, it takes that one note. So as it does that, then you get this music.
There are very few of these.
Well, this is number 56 out of 7,000. And I know Wicks didn't want to work on it when I called them about 4 years ago. And someone gave me a name of Mr. Hanig, Phil Hanig up in Fort Madison, Iowa. And he came down and he said, I can do it. And I kind of worked up a deal with him, and he agreed to it. And he did a very good job.
Sounds pretty sweet now.
Oh, it was a very good job, yes, because it only worked about 20% when we received it. It hadn't been played for many, many years. Because after Vatican II, they put a small organ down below, and this was just stopped.
Father, amid all these beautiful reconditioned stained glass windows, you've got a real gem up above the choir loft, up where the organ is. And you really appreciate that piece of work, don't you?
That's right, yeah, the colors are magnificent. It is a windows which represent 7 angels. They're all playing one instrument or singing. It's fitting for the choir loft, I guess. But also, number 7 is symbolical. It's found in the Bible, in the book of Tobit in the Old Testament, and in the book of Revelation in the New Testament. In the book of Tobit, we have Tobias, the son of Tobit, who is guided by Raphael, and who is led to find a cure for his father, but also a wife. And Raphael, at the end, towards the end of the book, is presenting himself as being, I am Raphael, one of the 7 spirits in front of the throne of God. And we find this number again in the book of Revelation.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore, we have the names of 3 of those spirits in the Bible. We have Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, the one who appeared to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And although on the window itself, I don't think we can recognize one or the other because they're all playing an instrument of music. Yeah. But also in the choir loft, you have Saint Michael, a huge statue. That's about the only place we could find because it's so huge. And it's made by a local artist here, Kirk McReynolds, who actually did the original in Italy. He worked in Italy for a number of years. And this statue was outside in front of a nursing home here in town. But it's so huge that when it was high wind, it fell off and broke in 2 pieces. So it was fixed, reconditioned, and we found a place for it in front of a pipe organ.
That's perfect.
Yes.
Looking over the congregation.
oversized.
guarding over the congregation, a little oversized.
Yes,
No, it fits
and
up there
our
very
bishop
nicely.
here in the diocese of Springfield, when he was installed a few years ago, he asked all the parishioners of the diocese to say a prayer to Saint Michael, you know, because Saint Michael is a protector of the church and a defender against the devil, you know, the demon. Therefore, all the churches in the diocese now are saying this prayer of Saint Michael. For us, it was nothing new because we have said that prayer all along, because it's part of other prayers which are called the Leonine prayers, which are said usually after a Latin Mass when it's said, when it's not a sung Mass, when it's a low Mass. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Father.
You're welcome.
Well, Father, at 10 after 12 today, like every day of the week, you'll be having a Latin Mass here
correct.
at St. Rose of Lima. And a lot of people, Catholics included as well as non-Catholics, kind of wonder what is the big deal about the Latin Mass. And it's a throwback to the time before Vatican II, when the
Yes.
Masses were all said in Latin, weren't they?
That is correct, at least in the West, with the Latin Rite. I think it's popular today among many people, partly because it's new for many people, but I think also for the younger families, in a world that's filled with turmoil, it's very chaotic, the Latin Mass provides a certain connection with the past. It speaks of stability, and it is very stable. And so that gives people the strength, kind of like it provides them with a basis or a foundation so that when they do go out into the chaotic, the big bad world, they don't get lost in it. They have a sense of their identity and where they are. And so that, I think, is very attractive to many people today, even those who've never grown up with the old Mass.
You'll have people come here every day at 12:10, as I said, but then on weekends,
Yes.
you'll have a considerably larger crowd, won't you?
Right, and that's typical of any church. You have the daily Mass goers are usually a smaller group of people than
Yeah, but you'll have
Sunday
hundreds in here on Sunday.
I'm not sure what the exact numbers are, but because it's still fairly small, maybe 100 per Mass, something like that. And so we have a lot of growth capacity here still.
Yeah. The altar is interesting because most Catholic churches now, you walk in and there's the back altar is still there, but there's an
Yes.
altar in the front
Right.
where most of the Masses are said.
That's right.
That's removed from here, and you'll when you do the Latin Mass, you actually face the altar, so
That's
your
right.
back is to the congregation,
Right.
which is
That's
unusual
right. That's
these
right.
days.
That's right. Well, I think in the past, I think many people lost sight of the reason why the priest had his back to the faithful. And because of that, when the idea of getting the faithful to participate more in the liturgy, to somehow feel more welcome, it didn't seem unusual or odd, or it seemed like a good idea for the priest to then face the people so that they could feel more welcome. But what was lost was, as I said, was the original idea of why the priest was facing that way. He was facing the same direction as the people. Liturgically, he was facing eastward, and sometimes it's actually facing east. In this church, I forget what this west, I think, or is it south?
I'm turned around.
So my sense of direction is very bad, but it's called liturgical east. And what that means is that everyone is facing in the direction from which our Lord promised to come. So it's to cultivate the sense of expectation or expectancy about the second coming of the Lord. So it has what's called an eschatological dimension to it. So when we all come here, we want to cultivate the sense of waiting on the Lord, waiting for Him to come, and He does come in a kind of real way, but still anticipating. It's like a practice for the second coming when He comes through the Eucharist. That's the idea. So that was lost, unfortunately, I think, with many people. And so it seemed like a good idea to face the people, and because it wasn't understood why the priest was facing in the other direction in the first place.
Okay. Well, thank you, Father.
You're welcome.
Well, Paul, we mentioned George Berensmeyer earlier in the program. These are the architectural plans.
It's the original plan.
The original plan.
Norman Peters gave it to us, and he asked me to pick out one, and I said, let's do a cross-section of the church.
Isn't that
That's the
nifty?
original
And that way you get a look at really how he planned to put all these styles together.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then later on, after it was built, this is interesting
This
because
is the
in
interior.
1912, this is the interior. And was it common to have all these light bulbs?
Well, at that time, it was light bulbs were new, and so they did this light bulb on every arch. There was 500 light bulbs, 50
Oh, wow.
switches.
50 switches.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! And that really juxtaposes well with this picture up here, because when the parish closed, church closed in 2005, I think it was, and you came in. This is what you found.
2000, that was completely empty. They had removed the carpeting already, and I took this picture from this is what we received. Everything was empty.
And took on the task then of resupplying the church with all the
Right,
sacred
the altars, and
necessities.
everything that we need to make for the Latin Mass.
What a terrific, terrific story. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. This truly is a phoenix story, St. Rose of Lima rising from the ashes, as it were. A reminder, if you like the traditional Latin Mass, it's available at St. Rose of Lima in Quincy at 8th and Chestnut, 2 days, every day of the week. With another Illinois story in Quincy, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send 1995 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.